Christophe, shalom lekoulam, chère Margot, je suis très fier d'être ici ce soir dans cette maison de retraite, Moses, pour vous rendre honneur. Vous avez eu la Légion d'honneur et vous faites honneur à tous les Français par votre action. Ainsi que votre époux, Jacques. I will switch to English because I was told that, well, it would be maybe better. I know you would have expected me to speak in Hebrew, but, well, after 6 years I should master that language, but I have to say I mastered it only as a 5-year-old kid. So I don't think this is appropriate for this event. So first of all, I would like to thank the members of the B'nai Brith World Center and the Committee to recognize the heroism of Jews who rescued fellow Jews during the Holocaust for their outstanding work. Thanks to them, we are all here together to remember the simple heroism of men and women who, in the darkest hours of our history, have put their lives and their families' lives on the line to save innocence. We are honoring today Margot Cohn, who is one of these noble persons. Margot, I sit before you today with a sense of deep humility, and because this ceremony is also, well, not exactly, but not far, and since it's also your birthday. 14 juillet, c'était hier. Et 90 years old, and you really don't look. You look so young and so fresh. Bon anniversaire, Margot. Anniversaire. Anniversaire. Anniversaire, Margot. Bravo. Voilà. Très bel anniversaire, vraiment. C'est aussi l'anniversaire par ailleurs de l'œuvre du Secours aux enfants, le 100e, voyez. C'est une belle conjonction. Today we are celebrating the heroism of a young girl, not so far away. At the age of 20, I understand you were in Corrèze, in Usac, to organize a summer camp for a youth movement. At the same time, Jacques Cohn, who later became your husband, was working with the OSE Association to open a center in the Rhône to provide shelter and welcome the children of refugees. An event changed your fate. On the 26th of August 1942, hundreds of Jews were interned in the detention camp of Vénissieux. Hundreds of people who were also parents. Jacques and yourself, listening only to your courage, took care of their children. You turned the center into a safe home and provided a safe haven to these children. Another disaster came in November 1942. Jacques was put under house arrest by the Commissariat aux Affaires Juives, the French Commissariat aux Affaires Juives, and you found yourself at the age of 22 at the helm of the house and its 30 kids. With the help of a few friends, without running water or heating, in the midst of winter, you stood firm through all these months. The outcome was successful. Jacques was freed, and thanks to the love for Secours aux enfants, the kids found foster families. As for you, you relentlessly kept on assisting children. Another important date, it was in July 1943, you were called to serve as a social worker for the Resistance Network, headed by Georges Garel. With your bicycle, you hit the road throughout the departments of the Rhône and the Ain to find shelters or foster families for the kids of deportees. You would take night trains to transport children as far as the Savoie. There you would put them under the wing of smugglers who would take them to Switzerland. In March 1944, another important date, you rushed to the city of Lisieux to call for the dispersion of the kids staying at the local camp. The Gestapo has just swept the local offices and arrested the members of the Jewish association running the camp. your courage, your presence of mind, saved the lives of these kids. Your generosity, your devotion, your humbleness honor you greatly. I want also to seize this opportunity to commend the exceptional work of the L'œuvre de secours aux enfants, which, as I said, celebrates this year its centenary. We have to pay tribute to the heroism of the dozens of men and women, and among them so many anonymous and who remain anonymous, who during the war organized clandestinely the rescue of more than 5,000 children and took care of the orphans after the liberation. Each step, each brief, each word of these children is a victory over barbarism. This barbarism was conducted, we have to acknowledge this fully, in France and by French citizens. France is fully responsible for these acts. It was Pierre Laval, the head of the French government at that time, who expressly offered the deportation of children under the age of 16 to the Germans. This was not a German decision. With this monstrosity, France reached a point of no return. She sent to death her own children. And more than 11,000 Jewish children were deported to Auschwitz. 11,000 children who were not allowed to live. And the philosopher Martin Buber, who you know very well, as you were his private secretary, wrote, "Childhood bears a sacred impulse of shaping and transforming the world. Today, we mourn the loss of this world. Among these fates, how many writers who never wrote, how many inventors who never created, how many men and women who never were parents. To pay tribute to these kids whom France should have protected, we cannot simply hide our eyes, you know, just like children would do when they are afraid. With gravity and serenity, we need to learn the lessons of history. Childhood evokes for everyone innocence and oblivion. But we cannot be innocent. We cannot, because forgiveness is not possible. We are also forbidden to forget, because it would be like becoming an accomplice a second time. Today, more than ever, we bear the tragic duty of remembrance, and I would like to pay tribute to the historians, the institution, which, like gold hunters, are patiently collecting fragments of history, like nuggets. These words of gold, these testimonies, like yours, Margot, remind us that behind the coldness of the statistics, this figure of 6 million deaths, tirelessly repeated, we find 6 million individuals, 6 million human dignities. Chère Margot, you worked for many years at the National Library, so you know too well the importance of archives. They have the heavy burden of keeping for future generations the vast structure of recollection. I would like to quote Victor Hugo, who said, I'll try to translate it in English, "A library is an act of faith, a testimony delivered in the night, in waiting of the dawn. The testimonies of survivors, Juifs, resistance fighters, should not tie us to the chain of remorse. By their exemplary action, they invite us, on the contrary, to see the future without hate or any spirit of vengeance. Faith in humankind and hope are the lessons of those testimonies." Merci à ceux qui, comme Margot, se sont levés dans la nuit pour défendre l'honneur de la France. They saved French honor. And thanks to people like Margot, 3/4 of the Jewish community in France was saved. Memory is also a fight for the truth, against oblivion and ignorance. Teaching the past in schools and universities is essential. Too many young French today are unaware of their own history. It is only with education that horrors like the Veldiv roundup can be meditated, so that never history repeats itself. We also need to continue the struggle against the counterfeiters of history, individuals or nations, which still commit the abomination of denying the Shoah. We must sanction resolutely the Iranian regime, not only because it's pursuing a military nuclear weapon, but also because it is denying the very existence of the right of Israel to exist, and is denying the Shoah. Furthermore, we have to remain vigilant in our daily lives. The disease of anti-Semitism is taking new shapes, and the French Republic has to be inflexible towards every single anti-Semitic act, whatever it may be. To play down these acts, or worse, be indifferent to them, is an indignity, because nothing, not even a word, is trivial. We have to repeat again and again and again that anti-Semitism is not an opinion, but an objection. You know, we had this event in Toulouse, this tragedy in Toulouse, which shocked all the French citizens. In 2012, in France, children were killed, and their only crime was to be born, and to be born Jewish. This revolting fact reminds us that we should never lower our guard. Anti-Semitism is a daily fight, which France and the French people take on as the most important priority. To conclude, and sorry to have been too long, among the multiple dimensions of your existence, Margot, j'ai noté que vous aviez été, comment pourrait-on dire, une pédagogue. And here I want to make a choice of hope. You know better than anyone that the work of the pedagogue is essential to the improvement of mankind. And since, as wrote Martin Buber, every real life is an encounter, I make the wish that our kids, our children, have the opportunity to listen to testimonies like yours, Margot, so that they never forget the dignity of the humankind. Toda Rabba. Merci beaucoup.